Adam, thanks for joining me today, bro.
Hey, John, thanks for having me, man. Honored.
Dude, so tell me your story. Let's jump in.
I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. Detroit's is a good place to be from, right? Right, John. But so, man, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I was the oldest of three. By the way, I was looking at some stats today, and by the way, firstborns are much more intelligent than their younger siblings. So I did see that.
Whatever.
I did. I was researching the program, so I got my data. But anyways, yeah. I have a brother and sister, both younger. In retrospect, I found out. I believe I was an accident. My sister was planned, and then my brother was a makeup. All right, and so that's our story. And but it was interesting. My parents divorced when I think I was about 11 years old, and so that was kind of a earth shaker thing. And something odd happened. My father got custody of us kids, and I don't know if you know, but I mean, back in that day, that never happened. And so my dad got custody of us, and instantly, I was kind of thrust into. I was kind of the mom, the big brother. It was kind of like it was a pretty intense load for looking back on it, but just kind of had my ups and downs. And but here's the interesting thing: through it all, my father and I had this connection with hockey. It was this thing, man. Ever since I was, before I learned to walk, I was skating, and that was kind of the thing. My pops and I, we always had together. And it's in fact, I don't really have a lot of memories outside of that, with my dad. And so we just kept continued doing the hockey thing together. And finally, I was eligible to play in the Ontario League, which is where most of the players are drafted from. And so I moved away from home at 16. How many know you can get a lot of trouble at 16 years old moving away from home? And so I was a Jesus guy at the time, and so but it was one of those things, John, where it was like, Jesus, you can have most of me, but I still want to do this, this, and this. And so and so I had a up and down, thing there. And then, finally at the age of 18, I was eligible for the NHL draft. And I remember sitting there in Joe Louis Arena, and 26,000 people there. Joe Louis Arena is my hometown, in Detroit. And so we were there, had my father there, and we always been building to this one crescendo. You're going to play in the NHL one day, son, all that. And I was rated to go in the first round. That's 12th overall. So it was pretty high in the first round. And it was by the St. Louis Blues. And John, the GM for St. Louis, got up to the podium, and he says, St. Louis selects from the North Bay Centennials, and that's my team. And so I'm getting ready to get up and hug my old man and do this thing. And it says Keith Osborne. It was a teammate of mine. And man, I could just see my father's disappointment and whatever. And so, that was a big one. And so I kept rationalizing, well, I'll get drafted next. I'll get drafted. And so long story short, John, I didn't get drafted till late in the second round. And it should have been the greatest moment of my life. And yet I just felt like such a failure. And but it was interesting, and that moment though was actually a life-changing moment for me, because it was kind of in my crater there. It was really when I got real serious in my walk with Jesus Christ. And it was like, Lord, I'm kind of messing up being the halfway guy. I'm like, I'm all in with you, and show me what you got. And really haven't been looking back since then.
Dude,
So yeah, that's just a brief snapshot.
I got to push back too about the oldest, because I'm always messing with my brothers. I'm the youngest. So I'm always messing with my brothers about me being the favorite. I mean, they had to stop at me because I was so amazing, right? So, I mean, come on.
I'm with you, bro. You guys are the favorite. Makes me sick.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to believe. So we have this thing back and forth about being mom's favorite and blah, blah, blah. But I love what you said too, because I think, and this is something where dads can truly understand. And I've tried to do this with each one of my girls, but it's finding something in common with each kid. And so, our kids are so different, right? But it's finding that common bond. And you talked about that with your father. And that's what, whether it's sports or whatever it may be, it's so important for us as dads to find that common ground with our kids, because it's what really helps us build a relationship with our father, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the scripture. It just talks about train up a child in his or her way, and then when they grow, they won't depart. And so, in other words, each kid has a way, and so it's on us to kind of research our kids, and we can help mold and shape that thing. And so, I was very grateful to have those moments with my father. And when I look back, very fond of them, and I see just all the character building, that grew in and through that. Like, I didn't mention to you earlier, but my father was actually the first coach that I ever had. And I was the worst player on the team, but John, you can't cut your kid from the team, I don't think. And so, but it was funny. But my father, he was like telling me the story of that whole deal. And he's like, son, you fell down all the time. But he said this, he says, but you always got back up. And it's kind of interesting, John, that was something that always marked my life. And I just think it was that thing of wanting to get up for my old man, right? And just, I even say, our walk with Jesus, it's whoever gets up the most wins. And so that's just kind of been my story.
Dude, so let me ask you this. Did your dad have was there an interest in hockey at all before you guys started doing this together? Or was that his background? Did he ever play? Give me the quick story there.
Yeah. Well, my dad, his dad was actually the Detroit Red Wings alumni. So the old time Red Wings, their trainer. And so he spent a lot of time around the Red Wings organization. And so my father was involved in that. And he and his dad, they had something like that in their relationship too. So early on, we knew, and I don't know if you heard this stat too, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. They talked about if your birthday's in January, so any of your parents out there, you got a January kid, they should play hockey because it's like 90% of those in the NHL are like January births. So it's bizarre. And I'm born in January. So it's crazy.
Bro, I am too. I missed my calling. Yeah. What's the day? What's your birthday, bro?
January 15th. How about you?
I'm the 20th.
Great, man. Happy birthday here in a bit.
Yeah, you too. Dude, that is a fascinating thing that many were born in January. Wow, I've never heard of that, and that's got to be just so bizarre to so many. That's crazy. Now that I know some of you guys that are former NHLers and whatever, I'm gonna say, hey man, when were you born? Because I'm very curious now. So, dude, tell me about your story, your faith journey. When did you come to know God?
Yeah. So when my parents divorced, it's funny. My dad was a nominal Catholic. We joke CEO. He's Christmas and Easter only. So he wasn't really practicing, but he wanted me to go to Catholic school to get the education and whatnot. So he's very, very adamant about that. And my mother was agnostic at best. So I remember as a young boy, having a theological question for my mom. I was like, Mom, what's heaven like? And her response was, she says, son, I don't know what it's like, but you can eat whatever you want and you'll never get fat. And so I'm believing that too, John. I'm still believing that, bro. Krispy Kremes in glory. So
I love it.
But when my parents divorced, it was funny. My mother being now single and not having her children, that's a game record. It's amazing how God meets us in those moments. And so my mom, as she was searching, she found herself drawn to a church. She heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, and she gave her heart to Jesus. It was funny. She wanted the same thing for her kids. She's really excited about this newfound faith. So John, I found out years later this was a setup, man. So she invited me. I'm like 11 years old, and they showed a movie like on the end of the world, like the Armageddon and the Mark of the Beast, all this stuff. Dude, I'm 11. I'm like, they did the altar call. I'm like, Jesus, please, I'll take Jesus, and kind of went to the front. But God did something cool that, I can't explain, but I can't deny. And it was just kind of a neat thing. And just to kind of bring the thing full circle, John, you'll appreciate this too. Then as a young evangelical, my dad thought I got into some cult or something from, his ex-wife. And so I remember my father sat me down and he said, hey, son, if you're going to go to this other church, then I'm kicking you out. I'm like 12. So he says, but if the priest at school says you can go, then it's okay. And so I remember going to visit our priest at our school, and it was great. He says, this other church, do they preach Jesus? And I'm like, yep. He goes, do they teach from the Bible? I said, yep. He goes, it's fine with me. Go ahead. And so it was this kind of neat moment. And then, but as I take that moment, then years later, probably just a few years ago, my father called me, and he says this to me. He says, son, did you know you can understand the Bible? And my dad has had this great reawakening, late in his life. So it was like the Lord throwing me a bone. So a really cool thing.
Dude, I love it, man. And just the reconciliation. I hear so many stories of, things that have all happened to us in our past, and our parents divorced and death and whatever else, and how God then takes that, the bad, and makes good from it, right? And that reconciliation can seem so much sweeter even the older you get, because then you've gotten some of it. You understand, so much more than you did when you were younger. How did your dad influence you as a dad?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, I would say like some of the, the great things that my father, number one was, I just always had this memory of him of just being an amazing provider. And it's been a deep value. It's funny, just starting to unearth. I'm like, I get that from my old man, And so it's a high value. I'm going to care for my family, whatever it takes. If I'm not playing pro hockey, man, I'm going to be a barista at Star. I'm going to do something. I'm going to take care of my kids and my family. And so that was always a very high value. And I know that's from my father. And as well, there's like, John, sometimes as a parent, you can give your kids something they hate in the moment. And then when you grow up, you wind up, man, that was the most priceless thing they ever gave you. And so I remember, I would talk to the Lord about my dad a few times, man. He was just making me work, do chores, babysit the kids. And so, but it's so funny now being a dad and a pastor and doing all these different things, bro. I got a work ethic now, and that's nothing but, what my father instilled in me. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful. So yeah, I don't think I answered your question about my parenting, but those are definitely some gems that I feel like I got from my father.
Well, you know what? And I hear that a lot, and it's so cool to see. It's a work ethic thing, right? And we've been able to interview so many different people just from all walks of life, and just fascinating people. And that's one that comes up quite a bit. And I love it, because I think, you know, that's something that all of us need to be instilling in our kids as the best way we can, is the work ethic. And so that means so much, and it has such a ripple effect in your life, and in the way you go about life, right? The way you look at life, and all those other things. What, and I can imagine this may come up with some of the hockey stories, but what are some of your most memorable moments with your father?
Yeah. Well, what's so ironic, John, is that I should give you a little bit of background about my father. So my dad's dad he was a violent alcoholic. So my dad, I believe he's got like four brothers and four sisters. And so my grandfather, when he drank, he could get violent. And so I just knew him as my grandpa, except I did see him one time pull my uncle and just, beat the snot out of him in front of me as a young kid. And I was like, whoa, what was that? I still to this day don't forget it. And so just to add some redemption to that is then later in life, my grandfather received Jesus Christ into his heart. And bro, you want to talk about a transformation, like the biggest teddy bear Santa Claus looking. I mean, he was just had this intense relationship with Jesus. So there's just redemption all the way around. But I do know then for my father, I mean, obviously that's going to do some things as affected his life. And what was so funny is I could see there's certain areas in my father's life where I don't know how else to explain it, John, is sometimes emotionally the wires don't touch. And so I remember just thinking back of my fondest memory of my father. And I thought it would be involved with hockey, but it wasn't. It was actually, I think it was about like 7 years old. And my dad took me to a fishing derby. It was just he and I. And I think the reason was there was like no expectations, we could just go enjoy one another. If we catch a fish, we catch a fish, whatever. And I don't know why, but that was like and I think we went and got McDonald's afterwards. And so it's just this highlight for me, right? But what's funny then, John, I'm having this emotional moment remembering this. And I remember I called my old man. I'm like, Dad, I was just thinking about you, man, and this moment together. And that just touched me when we went to that fishing derby and all that. And then it was just like crickets. And I was like, oh yeah, the wires don't touch there. So, but yeah, I know I'm so proud of my dad and all he endured growing up, and he just made it a step better for his kids and his family. So, now being a dad, I'm like, oh, I get it, man. You do the best you can. And it's the one job in life where you just feel like you're failing a lot.
Dude, you know what? And failing's part of it, bro. And the humility involved. And I've had to apologize to my kids more than I want to admit. I've lost it and I've screwed up and I've missed the mark and so many things. But it's in those conversations that, man, there's a greater intimacy, and there's even stronger relationship with my girls when I'm able to have those moments of saying, man, I messed up. Will you forgive me? And so I love those times, even in God's grace, right? And understanding the value of that. And you mentioned it, which is, I think, so cool, because this is something all of us fathers can pay attention to. I kind of teed that up thinking that maybe one of your favorite memories would be with your dad in hockey. But in you saying that, no, it had nothing to do with hockey. Bro, it was just fishing, hanging out. And it was probably a memory he doesn't even recall, wasn't even thinking about. But it's in those little things that sometimes we're not even paying attention to. Those are the most valuable, cherished moments of our kids' lives. And that's something we all need to be paying attention to. If it's just a car ride to church one day and it's just that conversation, but it's a conversation our kids will never forget, right?
Yeah. Oh, John, bro, it's just so profound what you said, because, I feel like every gift, it's got an evil, dark side to it, right? And so, my father gave me that work ethic, that drive, going to be successful. It's probably the thing that allowed me to play in the NHL for 14 years, and do that. But there's an ugly flip side to that. And that is like when you're driven all the time, like you're never fully present, you're always somewhere else. And man, if you're not careful, especially dads, you're trying to make it provide good things, but you blow that thing to an extreme, and you're next thing your kids are however old, and you've never been present the whole time. And so that's something and I'm glad I've had other men in my life to remind me, hey, no, bro, you need to just shut it down, just be with your family, chill. And so yeah, there's an ugly side to that. So don't miss your moments, guys, man. We get one crack at this thing, and you don't want at the end of your days just to be like, all this regret. Yeah, I wish I would have spent more time at the office. No, I don't think so.
Dude, was there some memorable moments? Now, you said you have two daughters. Was there some memorable moments with them as a father that you could tell us about?
Well, as a daddy of daughters, it's another dimension. What's so funny, John, is I can still to this day remember when we got the ultrasound for our first. So we had our kids pretty young. I think we were like 21. And so getting the ultrasound, which, by the way, if you're a new parent now, let me just say, I just despise you, because the technology and stuff these guys have, it's just not fair.
No,
So
you're
so we
right.
get you remember the ultrasound? It's like you're FaceTiming your kid in the womb. So it's just not fair, because for us, we get this ultrasound and you just see black blob, right? And so, but John, I was sharing the other day, man. I remember looking at that ultrasound, the black blob, and I'm telling my wife, "Oh, look, honey, there's his head." And I remember the doc's like, "Nope, that's her foot." So I'm like, "Oh, cat's out of the bag. We're having a girl, right?" And so, I remember being like animated, mad that I was having a girl. Like literally, I wasn't gonna hide it. I was upset. I wanted a boy. And then, and then I wound up having another girl as well. And you know what's so funny, John? I would, as you get this hashtag girl dad, right? I would have all girls. I realized, man, I would be such an idiot to a son. I'd be like, come on, son, you got to lift weights, you got to do all that, that kind of thing. So that was a real gift. But yeah, moments with my girls. There's so many. Like my oldest daughter has a sense of humor, bro, and she makes me laugh. And we just really, she's all about sports and stuff like that. So we have a real connect. Like I'm a chaplain for the New York Jets, and she scoops me on all NFL like stats and all that kind of stuff. So that's been a real joy. And then my youngest is she's the animal person. And so John, you having daughters, you get this, how they can be so different. I got one that's always in the mirror and doing that thing. And then the other one, I'm like, now baby, you're going to have to wash your hair today. All right. It's just like two totally different things, man. And they're from the same mom and dad. But I think one of the things I remember is you can get this as a daddy of daughters is, we did the whole promise ring. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just one of those things when my girls, became a teenager, I just went out, we bought him a ring. It was like, hey man, you are daddy's girl. And to another guy, your husband that loves Jesus is coming to take your hand. And so we did it up, bro. I was living in Manhattan at the time. We went to a jewelry store and picked out her ring. I was like, please God, don't let her pick out an expensive one.
Yeah.
So we did that thing and, did the limo and took her out on a daddy daughter date and we did our thing. And so, I look back fondly on that and I believe they do as well. And, so yeah, that's just one of the moments that stick out. And so a lot of epic fails too along the way.
Yeah, for sure, bro. It's, girls, and I'm the same way. I remember after my second one, we were having the third one, and a bunch of my buddies going, "Hey, man, you're looking for, you want a son, blah blah blah." And I was like, you know what? Honestly, bro, I got the girl thing figured out somewhat. and girls for a father, it's just it's dude, there's nothing sweeter, man. It's just I am unashamed to be a girl dad, and I love the blessings that come along with it, dude. And I know you do too. It's you just look back and go, how could I not be a girl dad? This is good stuff.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I know, especially now, I like because girls tend to stick around the roost a little bit. So where boys can be like, all right, I'm out of here, see ya, and go on. So I told my baby girls, I'm like, man, you can stay here as long as you want. So daddy's girl.
So, dude, let's talk, and we'll talk more NHL because I love hearing the stories. Are there a couple of moments that you will never forget in your NHL career?
Yeah, no, I mean, tons of them. And, the one story that my church is sick of hearing it because I keep reliving the dream, man. But I never got a chance to win a Stanley Cup or anything like that, John. But I did play in the longest hockey game ever. The game I was playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, and we were playing against our arch rivals, the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was back in 2000, and it was the playoffs. We were down 0-2 going to Pittsburgh, and we played in this game that the game started at 7 o'clock at night, and it ended at 3:30 in the morning. And we played 8.5 periods, almost 3 complete games, and it was just so many ups and downs. And John, I'm a guy, I drink a lot of coffee in between periods because I want to stay amped up. And dude, but by the sixth period, I'm like, caffeine. And we had guys convulsing because they were so dehydrated. They had to get IVs in between periods. And then about the sixth period, we had to actually had to order pizzas. Guys were hungry. So the pizza man came to our dressing room at a professional hockey game to deliver pizzas. And we had just a couple funny moments. And then we had one guy, his name is Keith Jones. And so he was a leader on our team, but he despised working out and exercising. So I'll just be generous and say, let's just say he had more rolls than a bakery. All right. He was just wasn't put together. And I know this is going out, so I hope Keith hears this, but he was walking in the dressing room and everyone's nervous because no one wants to screw up and lose the game. And so we're in between periods and it's pretty silent and you can feel the weight. And finally, Keith gets up and he says, "Men, I have something to say." And we're like, "What's he going to say? What's he going to say?" And he goes, "It's official." He goes, "Next summer, I'm going to start working out." We just all started cracking up laughing, bro. And it was like we had the release to go out and play. And I remember at one point, and then I'll cut the story short, it was like I got a penalty. And so I put our team down a man, and I did what every God-fearing Jesus guy would do. As I was going to the penalty box, I was like, "Jesus, if you get me out of this, I will give you more than 10% of my income. I will," try, how you try to cut a deal with God, right? And but anyways, at 3:30 in the morning, Keith Primo, our captain, came streaking down the wing, took a shot, and John, he hit the crossbar, and it made this deafening ping noise like that, and the puck dropped behind him. The red light went on. We won, man. We just screamed. But what's the amazing part of this, John, and maybe this will help tie into our broadcast, is after that game, I'm sitting in my locker, and bro, I got nothing left. Like, I have no more sweat to sweat. My gear is so you can wring it out. But and this is where I can't even describe the soul satisfaction as I looked at my teammates in the face, and I was like, "Bro, I gave you everything I had out there." There's something very soul satisfying about that. And I'm always reminded of that story when I think, John, there's coming a time where there's going to be a ping, and it's going to be the end for all of us. And we're going to look our maker in the eye. And we just want to hear those words, bro. Man, well done, my good and faithful servant. And so, like, man, when it comes to family and stuff, I mean, dads, man, if you're with your kids, man, be with your kids, love them well, be the hands and feet of Jesus. Man, husbands, love your wives, man. And so these are the things that God's going to hold us accountable as men. And so, yeah, that's my one hockey story, bro.
Dude, I love it, man. That's a powerful, and it's interesting, even in the midst of just the chaos and the craziness that happens in our life, how God reminds us of what's important and teaches us something, even in the face of adversity, how he comes in and in those small moments reminds us of just who he is, right? And what he's able to do in our life through those difficult times. And it's in the struggle that I find myself, we all have this I think tendency to use God as a convenience factor, right? And only go to him when we really need him, or when things are rough, right?
Yeah.
But it's in the leaning in, trying to lean in on a daily basis, that in walking in that awareness, even that it's so cool to see it when we're aware of what he can do and the potential people around us, especially in this day and age with the pandemic and everything going on, just the amount of people that need love, man, just a word of encouragement, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%, man. And it's kind of like, especially as dads, and man, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's kind of like words in the mouth of a father are powerful in the heart of a kid, of your child, like inordinately so. And so, it's a, what I had to get used to, John, was a lot of, growing up, my father was a very performance oriented thing. And so I felt like I got love and approval when I performed well on the ice or academically. And so I can translate a lot of that to my relationship with God. And the reality is, it's amazing when you look in the Gospels. I think we see that we hear the audible voice of God. It's roughly about 3 times. One time they thought it thundered, so I don't know if that one counts. But then the other 2 times, what do we hear God doing? Just heaping praises of approval on his son. This is my beloved son, whom I'm well pleased. And so it's kind of, I had to retrain my that father, the heavenly father. We tend to project our experience from our earthly dad upwards, and I had to kind of retrain that. It's like, no. And now being a dad, I'm sure you get it. It's like you realize, man, when you have a kid, and that kid doesn't do. You have a baby, that thing, all it does is poop and cry. And what, you love that kid, and they don't have to do anything or perform. So I always tell new dads, I'm like, bro, your mind's about to get blown about with your relationship with God.
But dude, and you mentioned it, and this is something in my own story that God just did such a crazy work in my life. But it was connecting the dots and knowing my father didn't have a father. His mom was married 5 times, never had a stable father figure. So even understanding and seeing that generational thing, and you said it, you saw it in your grandfather. You saw the incredibly difficult life that your father had to, endure, right? And
Yeah.
so in being able to connect those dots and understand, and now especially that your grandfather and your father, are came to know the Lord and the reconciliation and all that. I mean, what a powerful story, dude. And that story in itself gives so many others hope because of that generational thing. And there's not a lot of people that can say that, right? There's not a lot of people that can see that happening in their life. So I think just that part of it, of your grandfather and the way he was, and then what God did in his life afterwards, and then your father and how you guys have just had this, reconciliation and just the healing and everything God's doing in that relationship. That it's a powerful thing, man. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know if you have to do this, John, but I've had to call my old man a few times and just be like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I just never knew." When you're a kid, you just got this, very immature way of seeing the world, and like it's about John. I'm sure you remember this, like the first time you had to discipline your kid, and so listen, I remember thinking, "Oh man, my old man must get such a charge out of doing this or whatever." And then you have kids and you're like, it's like your kid screws up and you're mad at them. You're like, now I got to discipline you. Why are you making me? It's just the most horrible thing to do. You just don't enjoy it, but you better do it. The Bible says, man, if you love your kid, you're gonna spank that kid's bottom. So,
You know,
so
it, I have a nephew. Like I said, my brother has 3 boys, and he told the story not long ago about he's like 30 something now, maybe he's 30, 31. And he said, Uncle John, he said, we were out playing golf one day, and he said, man, I remember when I was a knucklehead when I was growing up, and I gave my dad some rough times. And he said, I got to be about 22, 23. And I remember calling my dad and going, dude, I'm so sorry I was such a jerk. He realized, he made his dad's life really difficult. And it is one of those grandparently moments where you just look back and go, okay, just wait till your time comes, because it's coming, baby. When you have kids, you're just going to sit back and go,
so
yep,
true.
see?
So true. John, my dad, I mean, hockey, you got to be, if you're a hockey parent, oh, God bless you. It's expensive, unbelievably time consuming. The equipment cost a bajillion dollars. And so it was funny. My youngest daughter was just all about horses. And so, John, I had to go to horseback riding once a week, just once a week. My dad was in the arena like at 6 a.m., 5 days a week, driving me back and forth. Things. And I remember just doing the once a week thing going, man, this is hard. Like you got 8 million other things you feel like, oh, you can be doing. And so I just had to call. I'm like, Dad, I never knew. Thank you. I get it now. So yeah, lots of that. Lots of that.
I tell my girls all the time, I say, you don't understand this now, but your mom is amazing. And one of these days, when you become a mom, you'll get it. Right. And sometimes when they're butting heads or whatever happens in life. And so, yeah, it's those moments of, man, come on, girl. She's got your best interest at heart. And none of the things that we do as parents are to be mean or be a jerk or punish you in the way that we're trying to do what we do. It's because we want the best for you, and it's hard for
Yeah.
them to see. And I remember as a kid going, what? Why is that? You're not looking long term and
Yeah.
don't see any of that down the road. But, um, bro, what's one of the biggest struggles you've had as a father, and how did you overcome it?
Um, yeah, I think for just the biggest struggles, I think kind of touched on it, John, was the time and the drivenness and just being able to go, to just shut it down and just be fully present when I'm with my kids. I had this is I wish I had it with me. I have my mom bought me my first Bible. I still have it it's kind of ridiculous when I open it up and I see the silly notes I wrote and that kind of stuff. But I found embedded in my Bible was this letter from my 11-year-old daughter, and we had gone to riding. We were going to move from Manhattan out to New Jersey, and so she was going to have to leave the current stable that she was at riding horses and go to a new one. And so in the letter, man, it's still, I opened it up and it was with the big cursive letters and stuff like that, like typical of 11-year-old. And in it, she says, "Daddy, I want to thank you for coming to watch me ride today." And then she said this, "And you really watched. You weren't on your phone and you weren't." And I was like, John, my heart's getting ripped out, bro. It was like, you don't get a do-over like that. And so that was always one of the things that then it starts to ground you. Okay, this is important. This is the priority. And so I still have that letter, and every now and then I'll read it to new dads just so they don't make the mistake that I made.
Dude, and I think it's such a great reminder, because I tell new dads, like you were talking about, all the time, man, just soak it up. Don't get so caught up in the drive to be successful and money and power and all the mess, right, that the world tells us we need to be pursuing. And I think all of us have regrets. If we're honest, we like to kind of say, "Oh, I got no regrets," because it makes us feel a little better about ourselves, right, and what we learned through it. But I got regrets, bro, and one of those is just what you said. It's and I didn't my girls I didn't always have a cell phone, but there's been times where I've been reminded, just like you. It's like, bro, put down the stinking phone. Your kids are trying to engage with you, but it's man, just living in the moment instead of always thinking about tomorrow or the next deal or whatever. It's living in the moment. What advice would you give new dads? Would it be that, or is there something else?
This might be maybe just a little bit of an aside, but I think it's really important. John, I'm sure there's a number of your listeners that are single parents. And let me just say, God bless you. Like, you are amazing. And I can't fathom, like, my wife and I, we got to tag team, and it was the most challenging thing we've ever had to do, it's the most time commitment, most thing you feel like you're failing at, yet it's the most rewarding thing you do as well. And I had a spouse to do that, to raise my kids with. And so for you single parents out there, God bless you. And I want you to know, man, the grace of God is there to help you and through that. And you're going to do an amazing job. But I would say this is, especially for dads of daughters, and that, man, men, you need to love your wife well. You need to love your wife well. Like, one of the best things you can do, fathers, for your daughters, is love your wife in front of them, because they're going to look for a guy like their dad, and they're going to hate it. They're going to think it's gross. They're going to say no, but in the end, they're going to do that. And so, and as well, you're modeling for your son how he is to treat a woman. And so high on the priority list. And nowadays, we can sacrifice our marriages on the altar seemingly for our children, but yet the very thing we're trying to do, we're actually sabotaging. Because, man, when you have a loving home, it emanates from that relationship between husband and wife, and bro, that security, it resonates throughout. And so I think that's really an important thing to really make your marriage a high priority, and your kids will be blessed because of it, man.
Absolutely, dude. I love it. What's the best thing about being a dad, brother?
Man, bro, especially having daughters, dude, it's great because your kid thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? And I love it. I'm always impressed. Like, my daughters, I am not the fix it guy. Don't tell my wife that, bro. I've got like tools and I don't even know what to do with half of them. And so, but my daughters think I can. Oh, daddy can fix it, or daddy got. I'm like, I can't fix that, but I thank Jesus for YouTube. So that's how I can get stuff done. But man, when I wish I could put into words what it means to be like a father or a parent of a child, because if you could, I just don't think there's words to express it. Cause like I said, man, being a parent is hard. It's expensive. It's the most time consuming thing you ever do. And it's the greatest thing. And I can't even hardly begin to tell you why. It's just the love you feel and the sense of, man, being family is just such a high priority. And there's this place where you can be, safe to be fully you and to be celebrated, And so, I wish I had a better answer for you than
Oh,
that,
dude.
but it is true. It's more of just this sense of this is what it's really about.
Bro, I love it. What's interesting is just a quick story. When we went to have our first child, I remember thinking, okay, I'm either going to pass out because of all the blood and stuff, or I'm going to be weeping like a baby. Right. And I got so just obsessed with the process. I was over playing with the placenta and all this other stuff afterwards, right? It was totally bizarre behavior for me. I just did not see it at all. But I remember it like literally watching my first daughter be born and just the awestruck of the gift of life, right? Thinking,
Wow.
how in this moment can you not believe in a loving, miracle giving God, right?
Yeah. 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 No, so good. So good, man. It also makes you think, man, thank God I'm a man, right? And not have to give birth to a
Bro,
child.
hey, preach.
If you've been in that room, thank God I'm a man. But you know what? You do bring up too. I just think as you talk about getting into the process, and it's amazing. I don't. There's so many great resources out there, so don't mishear me. But what's amazing is I just can't imagine even looking back and as a parent just going, I don't know what to do, right? Like you have a lot of those moments. And so for any of your listeners, I want to, hey, that's okay. That's most people. Don't let any people snow you. Oh, they got it all figured out, and this is how it works. Because everyone's different, and they're gonna mess with your books and Dr. Dobson and all that stuff. Doesn't always work.
Bro,
So,
you know what? No,
yeah,
I love that advice, because here's the bottom line. And this is what I try to tell all guys. Bro, none of us have this thing figured out. We
good,
just
bro.
don't, right? I
That's
mean,
that's
I'm
it.
I'm 53 years old and I'm still stumbling and bumbling through it at times, and I
Yeah,
still screw it up all the time. Those that say they have it figured out are lying.
absolutely. And just to let you know, like, so it was funny how we had this. I can out my wife on this program, right?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. 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 So, I know my wife. She's the greatest mom. She was born to be a mom. And but there was one time we were sitting outside at a lake, and we had the picnic scene and all that kind of stuff. She's holding our infant daughter, and a bee came around. John, she tossed our daughter like that, trying to swat the bee, and I'm like, and I busted her. I'm like, baby, what in your maternal instincts would make you your first thing do to kind of throw our baby, our infant daughter, to the side? So I always bust her chops on that, but I don't even know why I brought that up, bro. Probably gonna get me in trouble for that one.
You
But
just you just want to dip your wife in the grease is what you did. No, dude. Hey, bro,
so
I appreciate you, man. I know you got a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time to do it. And so, as we wrap up, dude, tell people what you're doing right now and how they can connect with you.
yeah, John, I'm pastoring a church in New York City. Or it's Every Nation, New Jersey. I was in New York, so you can just check us out. Our website is encnj.org. And then I'm also currently the chaplain for the New York Jets. And so what you can do, you're allowed to root for whatever other NFL team you want, but you need to pray for the Jets. All right, that's my deal with everybody.
Yes. And are you on social media at all?
Bro, I'm a poser, so I should be. I'm not on that much.
No,
So
dude.
just
Hey,
if you guys go to our website, that'd be great.
yeah.
encnj.org.
Dude, and you know what? Honestly, it's one of those situations where Now, there's many times, especially in the environment we're living in now, I wished I wasn't on social media. I mean, it is so chaotic and just, anyway.
You're doing a good job though, John. You're doing a great job, man, really. And really appreciate, and I don't know if this is on that, but I really appreciate you getting to the heart. I think I read John Hopkins University did like a 30-year study, and they were going through what's the root cause of, illiteracy, incarceration, all these things. After 30 years, they boiled it down to one thing: fatherlessness. And so I was just like, dude, what you're doing is so huge, and especially, I mean, if there's any time our nation needs, man, some great fathers to step up, is now. So well done, man. Keep up the good work.
Greatly appreciate you, bro, and I appreciate the kind words. It's been a heck of a journey, and man, I love connecting with brothers like you, and they just have such a passion and heart for others and for Christ, and just keep up the good work on your end, dude, and we'll definitely reconnect soon.
Great. Thanks, Johnny. Have a great one, buddy.
All right, bro. You too. See you. Bye.